Today's edition of Mac Voices is brought to you by Blue Apron. Blue Apron delivers fresh ingredients and recipes to your door so you can cook something new and interesting tonight. Check out this week's menu and get your first 3 meals free with free shipping by visiting blueapron.com/macvoices. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. And by Screencasts Online, your source for new Mac and iOS tutorials every week. To learn more and for a 14-day free trial, visit screencastsonline.com. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is a talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, today's show is going to be a little bit inside baseball. I want to let you know that, but it's going to be targeted for one particular segment of our audience, and that's developers and exhibitors at trade shows like CES and NAB and all the other trade shows out there. CES, obviously, at the moment is the big dog. And I thought it would be interesting to have an updated conversation about how to go about, I don't want to say attracting attention from the press, but maybe just getting on the list of folks that are covering CES. And maybe making the jobs of those folks a little easier, because obviously developers want coverage. So how do you go about getting more attention from me as somebody who is there covering the show, and also from someone like our guest, Mr. Jeff Gamet of the Mac Observer? Jeff, welcome. It's great to have you.
Chuck, it's always awesome to get to be here with you. And I love when you call me up and say, hey, let's do something like this, because it's just so much fun.
Well, it is fun. And I honestly think it's valuable. I think it's good for us to brainstorm a little between each other, and also to give folks maybe a little inside look at why they read what they do on the Mac Observer during CES, and that's kind of where we're going to be, and why they see what they see on Mac Voices. Because there are some things I think that a lot of that stuff has in common, and yet out of all those exhibitors, and I'm not prepared to say how many, but I think they pretty definitely venture into the thousands, you know.
I have a feeling you're right.
Yeah. So why did we select the people we selected? Any just like opening statements on that, on the whole concept, Jeff?
Of course. I always have something to say. And the first thing is, it's about relationships. So if you are a developer or a representative from some company, and you have built up a rapport with me over time, and I don't think that I'm being weird in this sense. I think it's just human nature. If we've already built up a rapport, I'm more likely to engage you at conferences and trade shows. And I'm just going to have a higher inherent interest in whatever you're doing, simply because we've already built a relationship. So now I have an interest in what you're doing. So really, instead of starting your relationship building with the media, the bloggers, the podcasters, whoever it is that you want to interact with at the shows, instead of starting that up with the cold emails that happen as the show is approaching quickly, you start finding the people that you want to know well in advance, so that when the show comes around, you're already in my mind, in this case, and you're already someone that I have an interest in seeing, and very likely have already put on my list of companies to visit when I'm at that event.
Okay, I agree with everything you just said, but it's got to start somewhere. And some of these folks, this is their very first time showing their product to the world.
True.
And so if we step back a minute, somewhere along the line, there has to be that first email that catches, or the first press release, or whatever it is that catches your attention. What catches your attention, Jeff?
Okay, so for those people, and you're right, there are a lot of people, a lot of companies that their first opportunity to make any sort of contact with me or with you is going to be when they get dumped into that press pool list for the event. And then they can just start sending out their emails. So, like a month before the show, whatever it's going to be. And if so, this applies not just for the people that are having to start to try to get my attention right before a show, but when you're making that first contact, regardless of when it is, what you need to do is craft an email that has all the information that I need right up front so that I know right away if I am going to take the time to even read through the whole email, which I know sounds horrible to say, but we get so many emails every day, and then that number goes up like almost literally exponentially when you get to a trade show like CES, and you simply cannot get through all the email that comes through if you're going to read every word for every message. So what I look for in an email is, do you have a subject line that tells me what I need to know? And that's really hard to do. So you really have to work to get the words together so that I know what it is that you're doing in just a few short words. So it's not like you have to put everything about your product right there in that headline or in that subject, but you need to put enough so that I know, oh, this is something that interests me. And then those first few sentences, like the first paragraph of your email, that better tell me everything that I need to know right up front. So you don't jump into the email with some coy, clever build up to whatever it is that you want to reveal to me. You need to tell me right up front, just cut to the chase. And then once you've told me all of that, then you can use whatever other paragraphs, and don't include too many because time is important for all of us. But so the next 2 or 3 paragraphs, they have more detailed information about what it is you're pitching, and then that's okay. And now we're good to go. Make sure you have good contact information. Make sure that you tell me who the product is for, because if you're pitching an Android phone app to me, and I don't know that until we've already started talking more about the product, or I get to the very end of everything and I'm like, seriously, I just spent 5 minutes going through their materials and now I find out it's an Android product and I don't cover Android. So don't want to waste your time, don't want to waste my time.
And I think at this point, we also, again, I need to reiterate the fact that this is not just about you or just about me. This is about a mutual relationship. You have a job to do. You want to cover CES and find cool stuff for your readers. I want to cover CES and find cool stuff for my viewers and listeners.
Mm-hmm.
The exhibitors want that kind of attention. They want to be included in that cool stuff. It doesn't do them any good to be an Android app on a Mac news site or a Mac video podcast or show. So yeah, you're right. Try to make sure that we have the information we need, so that we're not wasting your time, you're not wasting our time.
Right. Yeah.
So back to the email for a second, and I don't want to beat this to death, but first of all, you said not too many words. It cracks me up, these forms that they send out that have to be 700 or 800 words, and they really think anybody's going to read that. That's a turnoff for me right away. It's like, I'm not even going to bother to go through this because it's too many words. It's Joe's Software, a leading software developer from Sheboygan, Wisconsin, noted for cheese. I don't know. Okay, that's way too much. I don't need that. Just Joe's Software announces, this great product and this is what it does. And that's much more likely to get my attention.
Yes. This is what the product is. This is what platform it's for. This is who it's for. This is why you will like it. And that part that I just said, this is why you'll like it, that's actually really important. Tell me why I should care about the product. And I feel almost awful saying these things. Like I feel like I'm being very cold towards all these potential relationships that we're about to have with new developers and new product designers. But I mean, the reality is there are so many people that are trying to get our attention all at once, that it gets really hard to pick out the interesting things from all the noise. So you tell me those things, including why this product matters for me. Man, that stuff really helps.
Do you want to click a link in that email, Jeff, or do you want an embedded image of the product?
What I like in the email is an embedded image, but don't make it high resolution, because I may very well be reading your pitch on my iPhone, and I don't want to spend all this time tapping an image to get all these giant images to download to my phone. I'm going to look, read something, and realistically, I want to have made a decision about whether or not I have an interest in this product or service in under a minute. And that just sounds horrible. But when you're dealing with so much information getting dumped in on you, especially for an event like CES, man, you have to be kind of tough about what it is you're going to look at. So you've got about a minute of my time, maybe, and that's only if you gave me a good, succinct description in the subject, and that first paragraph, which is short, has all that basic info I need to decide if it's worth me looking any farther. But also give me links, because it's very possible that if I'm really interested in what you're doing, and I'll go ahead and give a good example. Icon Factory, they released a new app for the iPad just a few days ago. It's called Linea. So when they sent out their press release, it had everything. It's almost as if they called me and said, how should we craft a press release for you for a new product? And so it had the basic stuff that I needed to know right up front, and then it had and then it had a graphic, it had a link, and to additional information, and a link for a video, because they'd already put together a promo video. So I ended up reading their entire press release, and I ended up going and looking at the additional assets. I went and looked at their video, watched that, and by the time I was done with that, I'd probably spent 10 minutes of my time just going through this stuff. And at that point, all I wanted to do was download and start using the app. So they totally nailed it. They gave me all the information to draw me in, and did it in a way that was very compelling.
I like the idea of giving a link to more information, and I don't mean, like you said, a restatement maybe of what I've already gotten, but then if I have that much interest, give me a lot more meat, and give me the high-res images. And I love the video, and I want to talk about the videos a little bit later. But yeah, I think that's great. It helps you separate out and doesn't make you wade through all that other stuff, because frankly, too much of the other stuff, it's a turnoff. It's a big turnoff.
Yeah, it's okay. As long as we're talking about turnoffs, always be honest with me, because if you're not, you will end the relationship with, and it's not like these people are trying to be malicious when they're being dishonest, but there's these little things that I'm assuming the PR agency school teaches everyone, and one of the hooks that they have is make the person you're contacting think that they missed your first email. And so, and this started a couple years ago in a big way, where I'd start getting these emails that say, circling back to see if you're interested in this. And the first time I saw that, I'm like, holy crap, how did I miss this? And I went and looked at my email, and I'm like, oh, because there was no first email. And so if you try and trick me into thinking that we may have already started a conversation, then you very likely have just ended our conversation.
Okay.
Now, if we really have started something and you're really circling back to see if I have other questions, that's totally fine. But we better have already started some sort of conversation before you drop a "Hey, circling back" email to me.
Do you find it offensive to get, say, a second notice without the circling back part, but you know, want to
No,
make
not
sure
at
you
all.
saw my first? Yeah, I don't either, but
That's totally fine. Just want to make sure you didn't miss my first email, and if I saw your first email and it didn't interest me, I didn't respond to you, it's nothing personal. It's just that there's so many other emails coming in that I saw it and I was like, not interesting for me. I move on, and then later on I get a follow up email just seeing if you're interested. No, I'm still not interested. And so if you still don't hear back from me, it's probably a pretty good indication that I'm not interested. And again, I know it sounds cold and horrible, but it's it's not me trying to be aloof in any way, although I fear that's how it sounds. But when you're dealing with so much content and so many cold pitches, you can't reply to everything. Otherwise, your entire life gets consumed with replying to emails, and you don't get anything else done.
yeah. And I think most exhibitors recognize that, because they seem, the ones I follow up with, seem very appreciative of the fact that I did get back to them. So I think that they recognize that this is a challenge, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this show, because I know there are people that I ended up seeing maybe on the show floor by accident that I kind of remember your product or your pitch, but I didn't find it interesting enough to look at. But then there you are in front of me, and I see your booth, and it's worth a quick little chat, or maybe in my case a quick little video interview. So
Sure, I've had that happen too.
I'm
Yeah.
sure you have, yeah, yeah. Do you sort of along those lines, Jeff? Do you schedule appointments? Because that's something that seems to be in at least every other email. Could we book a time for you to stop by? Is that realistic in a show like CES?
You know, I know a lot of people that book firm times for appointments, and I will occasionally book a firm time, but not very often. Typically, what I do is I will say, this is the day that I'm going to be in this hall, like at CES. This is the day I'm in the North Hall, so I would love to come by and chat with you then. And if I have a good idea of what my schedule is, maybe I'll even narrow it down and say I'll be coming by in the morning or I'll be coming by in the afternoon. But I try and avoid locking in times, because what I have found is that once I have locked myself into a bunch of set times for appointments, there's no chance for discovery, because all I'm doing is running from appointment to appointment. And if I've come across the most amazing product and we're like deep in this conversation, and now I have another appointment that's coming up in 15 minutes, and I know that's how long it takes to get to wherever it is, I have to end a really good conversation that I don't want to stop. So I a few years ago stopped putting set times for my appointments, and it's actually not been a problem at all. It's worked out really well, and I haven't had trouble with any vendor at a show saying, well, then we just can't meet, because it's, I mean, they get it, and their PR people are going to be there anyhow, and they know generally when to expect me. And if I tell them, hey, I'm going to show up, then I show up.
Yeah, I do exactly the same. There are some that I will set if there's someone, especially if there's somebody in particular I know that's going to be there that I want to make sure I talk to.
Sure.
What I tend to do is, if I'm going to book anything, I'll book it first thing in the morning so that I can be, there, walk in the
Yes.
door, and I know hopefully they're going to be there and ready. I'm definitely going to be there and ready, and we get that done, and that's it. Or again, maybe first thing in the afternoon. But as far as all those other little times, because inevitably, I show up at the booth. I have an 11:30 with Jeff Gamet. Well, Jeff's over there, talking to somebody else. He'll be right with you, and I burn 10 minutes. And that
Right.
sounds childish, but 10 minutes, you only have so many days at CES to cover acres and acres and acres of products.
You say we only have so many days at CES. CES is so big, I think it's totally fair to say we only have so many minutes to cover CES.
Hmm.
And 10 minutes of time standing and waiting for someone, whether it's me waiting for the PR person or the vice president of sales or whoever it is that I'm supposed to talk to, or if it's them having to wait 10 minutes for me, that is uncool all the way around. It's disrespectful of everyone's time, and I do not feel good having to wait or making someone wait for me. And that's another reason why I stopped doing the set times. But like you, I will, if it's going to be a set time, I'll set it in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what time I'm going to record my morning show at the event, and I know how much time I need to have to eat, because you never hit the show without eating. That's a bad idea. And so I can set a window of time for myself so that in the mornings I can, if I need to, book an appointment. So I kind of like how we think alike in that way.
Yeah. It's interesting. We've both come to some conclusions, I guess, after doing this for a while, that there's certain things that just work well for us. This edition of MacVoices is supported by Blue Apron. Fresh ingredients, delicious recipes. Blue Apron is a better way to cook. Blue Apron is not just about delicious food. Oh, of course, the food they deliver and the recipes they come with are indeed delicious. But Blue Apron goes way beyond that. One of their focuses is supporting a more sustainable food system, along with their model that offers you convenience and value. By partnering with over 150 local farms, fisheries, and ranchers across the United States, Blue Apron delivers seafood that is sourced sustainably, meat that is responsibly raised, and farmers that practice regenerative farming. Now that's a lot of buzz phrases, but they are all true. What they mean for you is that by using Blue Apron, you get great food now, and you will get great food in the future, both long-term and short-term. And because Blue Apron ships only what you need for each recipe, there's nothing left over and no food waste. That's something you can't say when you go to the supermarket and buy the portions they want to sell you, not necessarily the portions that you need. While you're cooking responsibly and deliciously, you're also doing something that too many people don't do anymore. Cook at home, together. Whether you are sharing the Blue Apron preparations with your significant other, your family, or your friends, you're sharing the experience. The value of that may be hard to determine, but it is undeniable. So many good things happen when you use Blue Apron, but don't take my word for it. Try it for yourself. Blue Apron is giving you the chance to experience their fantastic food by giving you 3 meals for free, including free shipping. All you have to do is go to blueapron.com/MacVoices, place your order, and in a few days a package will arrive at your door filled with 3 recipes and all the ingredients to make them. That's when you're going to find out how good Blue Apron is. Again, that's blueapron.com/MacVoices for 3 free meals and free delivery. Give it a try. You won't be sorry. Blue Apron, a better way to cook. Thanks to Blue Apron for their support of MacVoices.
Yes.
Okay, so let's move to the show itself. You have a design background, and I'm curious to see what your current opinion is in the world we live in of business cards. And I have a couple things in mind in particular, but just in general, are business cards still a good idea? Are they no longer a necessity?
This may come as a big surprise to you, Chuck. I love getting business cards at conferences. Absolutely love it.
Okay.
Because I now have a document that I can turn over and write on the back what day I met them, what event it was at, and why we were talking. And for me, that is so important, because at the end of the day, I may have 60 business cards. And these are all people that I need to follow up with, want to follow up with in some form. So if I have a stack of 60 business cards and no notes, that's bad. If I have if I don't have business cards at all, well, then I'm not following up because I don't have any reference point. So the business cards for me are actually really important. And I do know people that show up at conferences and they say, "Oh, I don't have cards anymore. All my info's on my website." We probably just had our conversation end.
Yeah.
Because I'm not going to follow up because it's going to be out of my mind. It's just gone, 2 booths later. Now, if you shoot me an email and follow up, okay, now we'll probably keep everything going. But still, those business cards for me are really important.
No, I agree. And I don't know how you manage business cards, but I always carry one of those little, for lack of a better phrase, business card wallets. You know, the that I will fill with my business cards, and by the end of the day, all my business cards are gone, and I've got everybody's business card right in there. So it's a lot harder to lose one of those cards.
I do 2 holders. One is empty at the beginning of the day, and one is loaded with my cards. So if I'm giving you a card, I grab from the one, and it's distinctly different shape, color, and size from the other. When you give me a card, it goes into the other. And then that way, I never have the problem of accidentally trying to hand you someone else's business card.
Okay. All right. Good. So a little bit different way we handle that. This year particularly, I got a little annoyed with some of the business cards I got for a couple reasons. First of all, some were non-standard size, and so they didn't go in my little business card wallet, or they didn't stay put in my little business card wallet.
Mm-hmm.
But more than that, and I don't want to insult any designers out there, but would you people please stop doing the tone-on-tone that is difficult to read? Would you please, kind of accept a standard business card size? And this is my preference, and Jeff will hear from you in a second. But I've started, and for managing things after the fact, I've started playing a little bit with business card scanning software for the iPhone. And some of these, when the print is microscopic and tone on tone, the scanners won't pick it up, or they give you erroneous information. And I find the whole thing really annoying because it's like somebody's trying to be cute, and it's counterproductive.
Yeah. I totally get what you're saying.
But do you agree is the question?
Well, I agree with some caveats. And the first one is the business card size. Now, the problem is that what we think of as standard business card size in the United States is not standard size in other countries. So I accept that some cards are going to be slightly different sizes, are going to be a little bit wider or taller, depending on how you're holding the card, than U.S. business cards, and that's okay. If you're doing something that's a really way out there business card size, then rethink that. Stick with whatever is the international or the size for your country, and I'm okay with that. Now, with the tone on tone, where it's like you have this really cool, maybe like we'll go with blue card, and you have this really awesome blue embossed text on it, and it looks beautiful when you hold it in your hand. I can appreciate that because I love good design. The problem is, once it comes time to get that into a digital format, that really sucks. So I totally get wanting to have business cards that are easy to scan. So I will concede that point to you, Chuck. Now, some business card companies, that do the massive runs super cheap, they are doing totally non-standard sizes. And the reason they're doing that is because it lets them maximize the number of cards they get on a single sheet of paper. And that I don't like. And the main company that does it, I am totally cool naming names, but it's one of the really popular business card companies that does cards really fast and really cheap. And I feel bad I can't remember their name, but I will never buy cards from that company. When someone says that company name, I'm like, don't buy from them. And it's because they're doing their own size, completely independent of everyone else, just to maximize their paper usage. And that really bugs me.
And I think there was a time that those cool, unique business cards, that's when you dig in your pocket, that's the one that you'll pull out first because it's different than everything else. But in this particular situation, I don't think that it serves you well, and you definitely not going to serve you well if you're using something that is way too small, and I lose it. Then
yeah, and okay, so a company that does them really small is Moo Cow. And they do the cards that are like normal length, but they're about a third the height.
Right.
And at least they're the right length. That makes it a lot easier for me when I drop it into my card holder. But those narrow little strip cards are they're tough to work with, I think.
Yeah.
I would prefer that everyone just goes with whatever the standard size is for their country, because my system can cope with that. And
Jeff,
clearly it's all about me.
Well, yeah. Well, that's the danger of this particular discussion is folks are going to think it's all about us. But, we'll give you a peek into our world, and then you can come back and folks, obviously, I absolutely invite comments back if you disagree with any of this. We'd love to hear your reasoning and why. Maybe you'll change our mind. Jeff, how do you feel about the press kits that are inevitably given away on all sorts of interesting little USB drives? Do you accept those? Are those a good idea at this point, or can the vendors maybe save some money and just put stuff on the website?
If you put it just on the website, then what you've done very likely at a show like CES is cut me out of your press materials, because I'm having to work with crappy hotel internet connections that thousands of other people are trying to use at the same time, which means I may not even be able to get your web page to load, let alone get at your massively big images that I want to use in my article. So I don't care what shape, what color your USB stick is that you load all your press materials on. And I don't care if they're fancy, it doesn't matter. But if you load all your stuff on a USB stick and hand it to me, you're my best friend at the show.
Wow. That surprises me in a world of we have to be careful what we're sticking in our USB ports now.
I know. And but it's all about what is my threshold for safety and security. Now I'm running a virus protection system on my Mac all the time, because I know that I'm getting stuff from all different kinds of places, and so I just like to know if I'm getting something bad. But the thing is, when I'm at a conference, it's very possible that when I sit down to write my article, I won't have internet access. So if I don't have the media that I need to put my article together, I'm going to write about something else where I do have the media to put it together. And then if I have time, I'll go back later on and cover the other thing. So you give me a USB stick loaded up with press releases, product specs, photographs, all of that great stuff. Man, you just made my job so much easier.
And therefore, you're more likely to get covered.
And you're more likely to get covered. Yep.
Wow, that's really interesting.
You so didn't see that coming, did you?
I did not. I really did not. And I'm going to save us both a lot of emails. What virus software or protection are you running on your laptop?
I'm running Avira.
Avira?
Avira. It's free.
Okay.
And I switched to that from ClamXAV because Avira, it does the virus and malware thumbprint sort of thing like ClamXAV does, but Avira is a lot more nimble, and it can look for patterns. So it can look for the things that indicate a malware threat, even if it's not a malware threat that's already been put into the database. So it can act a little more proactively.
Okay.
Yeah, so I switched to that a while ago, and I've been very pleased. Avira, it's great.
Okay, and we don't want to go too far down that rat hole, but you are in a position where, especially if you are at a conference and you're sticking all these USB drives in, you do want some kind of protection because you're exposing yourself to a lot more things than you would otherwise.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
Yeah. I won't pick up a USB stick off the ground and plug it into my computer. It always comes from a known source, meaning someone that's a representative of a company, and they're putting it directly in my hand. So I'm not even getting sticks from other people.
okay. I want to throw one out there that drives me crazy, and maybe it's a failure of my system, but I don't think so because there are too many ways that this can happen. But inevitably, I'll walk up and I'll interview Jeff Gamet from Jeff Gamet Software, and then somebody swoops in from the PR firm and says, hi, I'm from XYZ PR firm, and here's my card too. And if you could let me know when Jeff's interview goes up, that'd be great. And I say, yeah, sure, I'm happy to. And I stick it in, and then I never do it because I get back to my hotel room, or I look later and I have no idea. And at the time, it was perfectly reasonable. Well, of course I'll remember it. And then 20 interviews later, it's like I have no idea who this card is from. Mm-hmm. So press people. One of two things: either handwrite. If you're in Jeff Gamet Software's booth, write Jeff Gamet Software on there. And if I had exactly one PR person this year hand me their card, and they had printed out a little label that had who they were representing at the show. And
that's really smart.
Yeah, it was brilliant. So that's one that I feel bad because it's something that I would be happy to do. It's just one more email to address or send somebody to notify. But if I don't know who you are, it's kind of tough.
Yeah, I totally get that. And now that you say that, I just realized there's a handful of people that I promised I would tell them when the video went up from CES, and I didn't. And the thing is, I can't remember who they are, but I know there's a handful of people that I didn't get a notice to, and
sure.
I'm feeling really bad about that.
Well, and you probably have their cards somewhere in your stack.
Yeah, and it makes sense because there are a handful of cards that I have where I wasn't able to put a note on them for whatever reason. Yeah. And so they're mystery cards.
Yeah. Okay, so how about the physicality of the displays? And you and I both go to the big press events at CES as well as hit the show floor. So we have Showstoppers, you have the Digital Experience by Pepcom, you have CES Unveiled. All of those are clamoring, and those are press-only events. So it's kind of a target-rich environment.
Yes.
But there are times I walk by a booth and think, I don't even know what they do. So, but this guy over here, now that looks interesting. So I want to go over there, and I never get back. So, what are some of the keys you think for displays or signage or whatever to get your attention?
Okay, first, if you're going to an event like CES and you're not presenting your product at Showstoppers, Pepcom, CES Unveiled, any of those pre-show events for the media, then you're doing your company a disservice. Because when you said target-rich environment, you are so right, Chuck. That's the place where they know exactly why they are there, and we know exactly why we are there. And we're all there for the same purpose. They want to give us information that we want to take. So you really need to be at those pre-show events so that we can connect. Because once it gets to the expo floor, now you're dividing your time between buyers and sellers and media, and that focus that you need, it's just not there. It's so much better at CES, at the pre-show events. So one thing that a lot of people don't realize is that at the pre-show events, when you start doing the pitch for your product to the first person that walks up, and two other people walk up halfway through, they can wait for you to finish, and then you start again. So now they get the first half of your spiel, and they've already had the second half of your spiel. It's not in order, but they got all the information. So it's really efficient. I can walk up to any booth at any time, jump in and listen, and eventually I'm going to have the whole thing without having to wait. So so that's really great for respecting my time and respecting your time as an exhibitor. Okay, so now if you want to catch my attention at any of these events, put your phone in your pocket and don't sit there and look at the screen. You don't need to be texting people, because those people aren't the people that are actually there at the event to get information. Now, I totally get that a lot of times there's last minute stuff that's happening, and there's all kinds of things where you need to be communicating with people that are not there. No problem. You have someone else that's there with you. Make sure that they're engaging the audience, in this case, the journalists and bloggers and podcasters, while you step out of the way, take care of that thing, and then jump back in. And then make sure that whatever it is that you're pitching, you actually have some sort of backdrop, banner, whatever it is, that shows what it is and explains what it is. So you've got your company name, your logo, if that's important for brand identity at that event, maybe a picture of what at least one of the products is, and something that says what it is. So, like, let's say you and I decide we're going to put together a HomeKit camera, and we're going to show it off at CES, and so we're going to call it Chuck Vision. And if we make a banner and all it says is Chuck Vision, and it's a white banner with Arial text on it, Chuck Vision, and that's it. Not many people are going to stop at the booth to see what it is. But if we have a bigger banner and it shows the camera and it says Chuck Vision and and something about the most amazing HomeKit camera you'll ever buy, keep your family safe with Chuck Vision. Something that makes it clear that this is a web-enabled home monitoring camera. And now I know, as I'm going up and down the aisles, oh, I'm covering smart home devices. I should go take a look at Chuck Vision.
Yeah, the first banner you described, it might be my camera, and I wouldn't stop for that. It's just it's amazing how, and we can all do it. You get a little too wrapped up in your own world, and you forget that you need to explain things to people. Jeff, you've talked a couple times about being respectful of their time and them trying to be respectful of yours. And now, I have a situation where I'm trying to set up and shoot, quick interviews. And I get emails.
Is this where you're going to tell me that it bothers you that I come up and interrupt your video sometimes?
Oh, no, I think it's wildly amusing because most of the time I don't even know it until I get home and start to edit it. And then, there's Jeff behind me making an obscene gesture. Okay, well, I guess it's just going to go out because it's part of the interview. But no, I take a little longer to set up, but I try to make sure that, when I walk into those events or onto the show floor, that I'm as ready to go as I can possibly be. And I do my very best to target 5-7 minutes at the outside. Now, there are a couple vendors that they get on there and they love to run, and I'll let them go because I figure, okay, if it's reasonably interesting, or otherwise I'll try to cut them off a little. But I really try to target that because I know there are other people that want to talk to that vendor, and so I want to find out what the product is. I want to give the viewer or the listener sort of a taste of what it's like to go to some of these events and go from booth to booth. But this is not the place for an in-depth interview. And
I agree.
And I think it's probably the same thing with you trying to cover all of these things. You're not there to try to get every single detail. You're there to get the important things.
Right. And we've started doing more video at Mac Observer. And I have a different set of criteria for the framework, for the limitations that I put on videos, because where you're doing what I would call a much higher end production with your video content, I mean, you get you actually leave CES, you head back home, and then you start editing all this video. And then over like 2 or 3 weeks after CES, you've got video after video coming out with all this interesting content. And I love it because it's just like all these little surprises for me. Some of the things I got to see, some of them I didn't, and it's a lot of fun. Now, when I'm doing the video, I tell the person I'm talking with 2 minutes. We've got 2 minutes for this video,
Hmm.
and I always do something short. And the people I'm doing the videos with, they totally get that I want to do this fast, short thing that gives people the overview of the product, and then lets everyone move on. And it also gives me the ability to do all of my shooting from my iPhone. I edit on my iPhone and upload. So as long as I have good bandwidth, I can conceivably hit like 5 booths in succession with my iPhone, and then go sit in a corner and post 5 videos, and I've taken an hour of time,
Hmm.
and I'm done. And the substantial part of that time is actually letting videos upload,
Yeah,
and
that's
then I'm off to the next thing.
right.
So yeah, so it's important for me, once again, respect everyone's time. So I keep it short and sweet when I do those videos, and I do have some that run longer, and even hit your 5 minute size.
Hmm. Yeah.
But by and large, about 2 minutes, and that's it.
Well, and we're both taking just slightly different approaches to the same thing, delivering in a different kind of fashion. I mean, I personally like to put in the lower thirds so that I can give credit to the people that are talking to me, and like to do a little more production value. But that's not realistic for you the way you're publishing.
Right. Yeah. I started calling what I'm doing guerrilla video,
Hmm. Yeah.
because yeah, I go into an event and I've wired myself up with a microphone, and then I have the microphone for whoever else is going to be in the interview already wired in and ready to go. So all I have to do is walk up, and we figure out what we're going to discuss. I clip a mic on them, and I start recording us. As soon as we're done, I pull the mic off and thank them, and then I can move out of the way so the next person can talk to them, and I'm off to see someone else. I also take a photograph of them right afterwards, so I have a picture of the person with their name badge, so I've got the right spelling, and I know I haven't screwed up what video goes with what company.
Yeah. Yeah. That can happen pretty easily. It's
Oh yeah,
surprising when you're shooting a bunch of videos.
yeah.
Um, Jeff, have you had the experience, and especially since you're shooting videos, I'm always surprised, and especially at the press events, when I go up and I say, "Hey, who would be interested in doing a video interview?" Well, first of all, it's inevitable that if I come up to you and say, "Jeff, would you be interested in doing a video interview?" Oh, sure, he'll do it. It's never the person I ask. It's always they happily volunteer somebody else. But the number of people that will say after we're finished, "Oh, how did I do that? That was my first time." And I think,
Yeah, that's surprising.
really? I mean, first of all, on the show floor, I can almost accept that. But if you're paying this extra money to be at a press event, and of course now everybody's carrying some kind of camera, it seems. So, and you don't have experience, or you haven't been trained or whatever. Does this happen to you frequently? And are you as surprised as I am?
It happens to me often enough that I'm not really surprised anymore. But the first part where I get shuffled around to someone else for the video, I'd say that happens about a third of the time. But I think I'm also approaching the videos in a different way than you are. So maybe because I don't have the nice camera setup with the nice microphone like you have, it's a little less intimidating. But also, when I get ready to do a video, I don't ask about doing a video. What I say is, I want to do this video with you. And so I've picked who I want in the video already. And it's probably the first person that started talking to me that had the passion about the product. That's who I want to talk to. And I don't care if you are the PR person, if you're a product manager, or if you just happen to be the front desk person that got sucked into being at the show. You're the person that has the passion. You're the person I want to talk to. And most of the time, when I say that, then it just goes forward with that person. And occasionally they'll say, well, you should really talk to this person. And I say, yeah, but I want to talk to you. Oh, okay. But then about a third of the time, it's like, well, actually, you really need to talk to this person because, our policy or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes I completely understand there are policies, there are credibility things, but it does surprise me that I run into as many people as I do that either are not allowed to give an interview or are not prepared to give an interview. If you're spending this much money, people, please.
Make sure everyone is ready to do an interview.
Yeah.
If you have 3 people at your booth, you could conceivably have 2 people doing videos while the third person is talking to someone else.
Yeah.
I mean, talk about an efficient use of time for getting your message out.
Yeah. I mean, again, because you and I both know the press events are not inexpensive to get into.
Right.
So you would think that they would want somebody talking every second that they're there, that they possibly can talk to anyone.
Right. Yeah. I'm always amazed when I find a booth at one of the press events and there's a person. And for as much money as you spent, you need to get everyone in there that you can, and you need to try and sneak people in too, so you have extra people just to help out. And I'm kidding. Don't sneak people in. I don't want anyone to lose their ability to get in the following year. But the point is, however many people you can have at that event, you have that many people.
Yeah, agreed. It just makes sense. So we're starting to run a little short on time, but I definitely want to get to after the event. Anything that you like to see in follow-up from either someone you've interviewed or from a PR person or anything of that nature?
It's okay. Here's the lazy part of me, and it's hard to believe that anything can be lazy about a show like CES, but this is my guilty lazy part. I love it when the PR people shoot me an email before I shoot them an email, and they get the post show conversation going. It's not like an ego thing. It's just like, okay, I can take this off my list because they've already started it for me. That's awesome. And it actually saves me a little time. And honestly, the PR people that contact me after the show end up floating higher in the list of what I'm going to cover next than the people that don't. And now I realize I'm starting to sound like that kind of arrogant jerk person again, but it's the human nature thing. I like the squeaky wheel is the one that gets oiled. If you make sure you're in front of me right away, then you're more likely to be the person that I'm thinking about.
Yeah, that's true. I guess my one thing is, there goes Nightshade in the background.
Hey, Nightshade.
The one thing I would encourage, because I was really intrigued this year. I visited a number of websites after the event as I was editing and releasing my videos, and I couldn't find the product that they talked about.
Oh, that's website. Horrible. Yes.
And I'm almost embarrassed to link to their website, but I'm going to, because I triple checked to make sure I've got the right website. But that's something that, first of all, please, I'm not quite like Jeff. I would like to see your assets on your website so I can find them.
Assets on the website is nice, but at the trade show, have a stick for me.
Okay, yeah, and for the way you're doing it, absolutely. But make your press, have a CES 2017, well, whatever year, but have a link somewhere that's easy to find on your front page that goes to the products you were showing And hopefully, maybe even if it's just in your press area, make it logical and easy to find. Because sometimes you have spelling issues. It would be nice sometimes if I can find them, I'll include some graphic assets, in the video, and that goes back to a piece that I mentioned earlier. If you have a promo video for your product, please put somewhere that it's okay to use this, that you have permission for the press to use it. Because there are times I would love to include your promo video because it's probably going to be a little more effective even to play underneath our conversation. But there are times I don't feel comfortable just reaching out and saying, oh, I could really use that and take it, and that's just not right.
And there's the difference between us when it comes to assets like that. If you have created a video and it's available through your PR system in some way, my assumption is that's something that everyone gets to see. So unless you've explicitly said this is not for the public, then I assume it is. And I'll grab the video, I'll grab the photos, whatever, and I'm going to run with them. So my feeling is if you're going to make assets available to the media, then you are implying that those assets are available to use in articles.
Would you make that assumption, Jeff, if it was, say, the new product on, and it's on the front page of the website and not in the press section?
Sure. If you put it on the front page of your website, you clearly want people to know about it.
Okay. So it's okay for me to take it and use it, and respectfully. I mean, I would
respectfully,
use it
of course,
in your interview, sure, but yeah, okay,
yeah. Okay. I'm totally okay doing that, and part of that's because I want to make sure if I'm talking about a product or a service that my readers, listeners, viewers actually have a good idea what this is. And if it's on your webpage and it's something that helps explain that nicely, great, thank you. I'm going to use that to help people know more about your product. And if you don't want that out there for people to use, then make it very clear. And if you've made that clear, okay, fine, I will respect that, and I won't use whatever that digital asset is.
Okay, interesting. Maybe I just learned something. But I've always felt a little strange about that. Even though I agree with your logic, it still just feels strange when I don't have the specific or explicit, I should say, permission.
Yeah, my threshold is implicit.
Okay. Anything else? I've tried to take us from before the show to after the show. But any other observations, things that would make your life easier, things that you think would be make exhibitors' time and efforts more effective in getting the publicity they're seeking?
The big thing is free-flowing information, both directions. Make it easy for me to know what your product is. Make it easy for me to find information about that product. Make it easy for me to write or talk about your product. And then from my side, I need to make it easy for you to communicate with me. I need to make it easy for you to follow up with me. So, that communication channel that needs to go both directions. It's all about making it easy for everyone. I mean, because the bottom line is, if we just want to get down to the dirty, ugly truth, these people are making products and services that they want to sell and they want people to know about. We are making products and services that we want to sell, we want people to know about. They're making something, we're writing or talking about it. And so there's a symbiotic relationship. They need to make cool things for us to talk about, and we need to talk about cool things.
Well said. Jeff, thanks for the time and thanks for the insights. We've done a couple of these over the years, but I think it's always interesting to re-examine them because we both know that things are changing. Social media makes changes, tech makes changes, and frankly, some of the trade shows make changes. And so I always value your opinion and your perspective on things.
Well, and I just love every time we do one of these, Chuck, because I never know where we're going. And it's always a fun ride. This feels to me like the most structured one we've ever done, because we didn't really deviate into other territory.
No, well, then we're going to have to fix that the next time you're on.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and we're working on something else too, so it may be sooner rather than later.
Well, that sounds exciting.
Yes. So, right quick, obviously I introduced you as being from the Mac Observer, but you are a number of different places. Tell folks where they can find you and hear you and see you and read about you and everything.
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, in addition to macobserver.com, I am on a bunch of podcasts. So the Mac Observer's Daily Observations, Apple Context Machine. I do the iOS show with Michael Johnston and Adam Christensen. I do the Big Show, which is just a fun general technology show where typically I'm like the only sober person, which is kind of weird. But
Okay.
fun. And well, it's a bunch of British people. It's at night for them, so they've already had dinner and they're winding down for the day. And for me, it's in the middle of the afternoon where drinking is likely inappropriate. Anyhow, I'm on Twitter. I'm Jay Gamet. Same thing on Instagram. I'm like all over everywhere, so I'm easy to find.
You are. Well, I hope we find you back here again soon, because it is always a lot of fun, no matter what we're talking about.
It's always fun. And see, Nightshade, she even agrees.
Yep, I hear the agreement. Jeff, thanks so much.
Oh, thank you.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices. I said at the outset that this was going to be a little inside baseball. I hope it didn't get too inside baseball for you, but I personally always think it's fascinating to find out how the sausage is made in different areas. So now you got to look into how our sausage is made. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes, links to subscribe, and to connect with Chuck on Twitter, Google+, Facebook, YouTube, Vimeo, SoundCloud, the Mac Voices blog, the Mac Voices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter, and on Mac Voices magazine, free on Flipboard that helps you do more with your Apple tech. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com, bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.